Salut tout le monde, j'espère que vous avez la forme. Petit message avant que la vidéo ne commence. Comme vous l'avez vu hier dans l'onglet communauté et comme vous l'avez vu aussi ce matin, il n'y a pas de vidéo news cette semaine, tout simplement parce qu'il n'y a pas assez de sujets à traiter. Donc pour l'occasion, eh bien j'ai envie de vous proposer une interview qu'on a réalisée récemment avec Ada de Jason Scheier, qui est tout simplement le production designer de Transformers One. Il a énormément bossé sur le film, et si Transformers One a l'esthétique qu'on lui connaît, eh ben c'est grâce à lui. Donc je vais vous laisser apprécier cette interview qu'on a réalisée donc maintenant il y a 3 semaines à peu près, on a enregistré ça. Donc il était aux États-Unis, nous on était en France pour le contexte, donc c'était une interview à distance, ça s'est très bien passé, c'était très cool. On a à peu près 30-35 minutes d'interview, j'ai fait tous les sous-titres à la main, donc j'espère que vous allez l'apprécier quand même. Et puis bah sur ce, on se retrouve dès mardi pour une nouvelle vidéo. Appréciez bien cette interview, et sur ce, bonne vidéo. Thank you very much to being here for our interview. So we have Jason with us today, which has worked on Transformers One. And if you hear some noise behind, it's just the cats who are doing a lot of noise. One of them is called Ravage, so he has the good name for it.
Yeah, he lives up to his name.
Oh yeah, clearly.
The messy one is Baudelaire, but yeah.
Yeah. So I think maybe where we can start, because I don't think many in my community will know you. So I think first of all you can maybe present yourself, like your career, where you come from, and where did you work, what did you do on Transformers One specifically, so that the people can know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so my name is Jason Scheier, and I'm a production designer currently working in the animation industry. And my last show was Transformers One as production designer. And what that role entails is coming up with the entire visual storytelling for the film. And so that entails having very early conversations with Josh Cooley, as he was the director of the movie, and also with the studio and Hasbro. And all of these conversations very early on help me in molding and crafting what the visual style will be for the show. So it's extremely important for me to understand not only Transformers and the history behind Transformers, but also really doing my homework and doing my research, because there's so many amazing intellectual properties that encompass the idea of Transformers itself. And so I do a lot of research. I dive deep into getting the script from Josh and from the writers. And I take the written word from the script and I start thinking about, what is the mood in each sequence? What is the props and the locations and the characters that are in every single shot? And so I have a team. Usually I come on first. I'm hired before anybody else.
Okay.
And I'm having these early talking points with Josh and saying, hey, Josh, what are you thinking about for this sequence in terms of the scale, the scope? Is this a happy moment? Is this a sad moment from the movie? Or is this something where it's a bit more intimate and these two characters or three characters or so on are connecting on a very personal level? And so I'm thinking about all those elements as I'm designing, but I'm also thinking about the schedule, and
Yeah.
I'm bringing on my department. And so with that said, I had Gerald De Jesus, who was my art director,
Okay.
and Jerry and I had worked together prior on a TV series called Blue Eye Samurai, and
Okay.
I was the production designer on that show, and Jerry was the art director. So we already had this really great shorthand. We had a really detailed understanding of how to work with one another and also set up the show for success, because
Yeah.
we had artists that we had worked for in the past that are friends of ours and also great colleagues. And we brought them in, and every single time we launched them, we prepared this material for them, like reference images and wordplay and brainstorming that was kind of a congruency of what we learned from Josh, and extrapolated that and then brought that to the project. So that's what I did on Transformers One, was oversee everything from blue sky visuals in the very beginning to the very end when we get into marketing and even creating the art book for the movie.
Okay. So there will be an art book for the movie?
There is, yes.
Oh,
Josh officially
yeah.
officially announced it. And obviously I didn't have very much to do with it in terms of writing it. We had a writer do that. And he's written other art books in the past that are really amazing, like the Iron Giant art book and some of the other books at DreamWorks as well.
Okay, so that's really wonderful, to know what you did really. So what I understand, or not maybe, is did you have before this movie connection with Transformers, or did you not know a lot about the franchise globally?
That's a great question. You know, I had a really strong connection with Transformers. I was born 1980, and
Okay.
so I was born at the literally at the beginning of when Transformers series was, released in 1984. And so I watched all the episodes from the 84 series, and then when the movie came out, my parents took me to go see the movie in the theater at 6 years old. And so, just like all kids, we were completely devastated when
Oh.
we lost Optimus, and I was like, "Oh my God, where'd Optimus Prime go? He died." I was kind of freaking out. And but it was something that has been delicately embedded into my psyche and also is osmosified into who I am as an individual and as an artist, even.
Okay, yeah.
And 80s cartoons are a big part of my cerebral big bank I have in my head. All the little pieces and synapses that fire off in the background are layer cakes of like DuckTales and Transformers and all these amazing shows that were around in the 80s. So absolutely, I have a relationship with it and I care a lot about the franchise. So when I was brought on to do it, I was super joyed to be a part of it.
Yeah, so with you and Josh, you are both fans, so that means that there was a lot of passion in the project also.
Yeah,
Yes, for sure, for sure.
about that, I'd like to talk about the artistic direction in the
Yeah,
movie, which was just truly amazing. I mean, it
thank
was
you.
amazing. I just wanted to know, what are your inspirations?
Yeah, that's a great question. As a production designer, I look at everything. I look at live action film. That's something that animation is doing a lot more nowadays, is focusing on real camera and real lensing, and also lighting too as well is important
Yeah.
to me. So we paid a lot of attention to just stuff like 2001 Space Odyssey, like Stanley Kubrick's films and how he shot space and big wide open epic vistas and even Lawrence of Arabia, like films like that to kind of set the tone. Denis Villeneuve's Dune is another big inspiration to
Yeah.
me in terms of how he puts things on the screen that are like occupying all the visual space and scale. But in terms of design language, we did look at G1. We looked at Generation 1 Transformers and we said, hey, what is amazing about this that really works for the franchise? And then also looked at all the Michael Bay stuff leading up to the Bumblebee movie that was done by Travis Knight. And I go, okay, I like Travis Knight's opening. I felt like that opening kind of set this really big epic scope. It had this more elevated sort of texture and sort of realistic grit to it. But that's not what our movie is. That was more, hey, we're going to go into a live action world that has humans in it. And this is the first time we're seeing Cybertron ever really like living on Cybertron and spending a lot of time there for an entire feature film. And so I really wanted to make sure that Cybertron was beautiful. It wasn't, as Josh says always, it's not just a big gray ball in space. It's full of life, it's full of color. And it's actually really interesting to look at. There's storytelling in the world building and the way that we set up the environments. And so from the very beginning of the movie, I could tell you my design philosophy. When you're at Icon City, everything's very square and very stable and trapezoidal based. And that's actually designed by looking at the Autobot and the Decepticon logos. If you look closely at those logos, they're actually reverse engineered into the windows and the way that the
Okay.
building plinths are created just by using 45-degree angles and then marrying that design motif with Art Deco and cassette futurism. And cassette futurism is like an 80s design sensibility that came from like the ideas of Sid Mead when he was working on like Blade Runner and other projects like that. And it's like got this little retro futuristic vibe to it where you're like, oh, that's cool. I know what that is. I understand it. But how do we make that into something that's uniquely Transformers? So I was looking at G1 and I looked at the way they do panel cuts and breakups on the floor and the way that they do surfacing materialing on the buildings. And
Mm.
then making sure that the characters also echo those design languages in their carapaces and in their exterior silhouette.
Yeah.
So if you look closely at the lineup of all the characters, all the way from Orion Pax to Alpha Trion or to all the primes, they all are designed all together. We always make sure to have a lineup always open. It's this big master file that we created in the art department
Mhm.
where we go, hey, this silhouette needs to work with this silhouette. And we always knew that they were going to evolve, right? They're getting alt modes throughout the film. They're getting a transformation cog, and they go from this regular bipedal state, and some of them become vehicles. Some of them become flying vehicles. Others are becoming big badasses like Sentinel Prime, who actually becomes like a Battletron mecha. He has like a mask that covers his face. He becomes this big cannon mode, tank for D16 turning into Megatron. So we really wanted to pay homage to
Mhm.
the original series, but also do our own thing that
Mhm.
elevates and also inspires the future of the Transformers franchise.
Okay.
Which leads to our next question. In
Yeah.
Art Deco, have you considered any other style? I'm thinking about Art Nouveau, parametrism, this kind of idea.
Yeah, no, we did. I mean, cassette futurism is the remix. So
Mhm.
it's kind of going back to what I said was
Yeah.
you have Art Deco, which is a style, and then you have cassette futurism, and you put
Yeah.
those together and it makes a baby, which is Transformers One. And I really wanted to make sure that visually it was so interesting that you're like, wait, what is that? That's cool. That comes from somewhere. But also, I don't want people to think like they've seen it before. And, that's something that's really hard to do. It's like where you're actually paying attention to legacy, but also injecting visual sensibilities from other sort of like design languages.
Mm.
So if
Mhm.
you're, for example, when you say Art Nouveau, there are Art Nouveau elements in Art Deco and vice versa. There's Art Nouveau elements in Deco and Deco in Art Nouveau because those two design sensibilities all play together very well.
Mhm.
If you actually look at Art Nouveau, what it is this really beautiful, elegant, sweeping curve and sort of organic quality to the
Mhm.
surfacing towards the breakup. But that's not our design language for our movie. Our movie, I would say, is more orderly
Mhm.
and a bit more symmetrical. But when you get into the minor sector, there's actually a visual juxtaposition that happens there. At Icon City, everything is very proscenium and very symmetrical and very strong and stable. But as you make your way into the minor sector where you're in the mines, it's a little bit more chaotic,
Yeah,
asymmetrical,
clearly.
a little bit more broken up. So it's order versus chaos, even inside Icon City.
It's some
Mhm.
kind of the deconstru I don't know what is the term in English. Like in France, we call that a deconstructivism. I don't know which is the
Yeah,
English
like
term.
to deconstruct something like
Uh, it's
mm.
an architecture movement.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to English too as well. I studied French too as well.
Okay.
You're speaking to deconstructism
Yeah.
and
Mm.
taking something that is constructed and then taking it and reverse engineering it into something else. And so, yeah, that's what we did. We definitely look at building and how everything is sort of created from an internal sense and then build outward from the internal structure.
Mhm.
So, and then also from the outside back in. So world building it's all encompassing. It's the character, it's the world that the characters live in, and how does it all blend together and weave together in a way that it feels cohesive and integrated.
Okay.
I just want to talk about the nature and Cybertron. We both really love
Yeah,
that. I
clearly.
mean, we definitely love that. When we interviewed Josh Cooley, he
Mhm.
said that it was, oh, well, the nature was somehow brought by asteroids. And yeah, so yes, that was the idea. And I thought it was just amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
I
it was a
really
great
like
idea.
that. Yeah, and I just wonder if there is any other underground cities hidden somewhere, maybe. I don't know.
You know, we I love that you mentioned that because Josh and I very, very early on were discussing organic life on the planet.
Mhm.
And my idea that I pitched to Josh was that by the time we get to the end of the movie and we're at the Royal Guard outpost, aka the Decepticon camp, we wanted that area to feel the most crazy. Like you got like these big splash craters that are
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
ground from the asteroids, and their ship that they're inside of is actually a downed Quintesson ship that becomes their headquarters where Starscream's at his throne. And I pitched that idea. Hey, what if it's a down Quintesson ship and they're
Mhm.
inside the ship? And I was like, that's so cool. It's a kind of like the original arc
Yeah.
from the original
Also,
G1 series where the Autobots have their base inside of the arc. But I flipped the script a little bit and I said, what if it's this like Lord of the Flies meets Apocalypse Now vibe when you get to the end of the movie? And Josh was all about that. He was like all about like Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now when
mhm.
you're like meeting Colonel Kurtz when he's gone up the river and he's like kind of lost his mind because he's out siloed out from the rest of the world. And that's what Starscream really is. He's this
Yeah.
kind of like misfit Ronin that's
Hmm.
in this like down quintesson base, and nature has completely overgrown it. And going back to your question about flora and fauna, we also wanted the mouth of Unicron when they first are introduced to the tomb where they
Hmm.
find the primes, it's very overgrown there. And we knew we were going to spend at least 3 to 4 sequences in there. So we spent a lot of time designing the type of metal rock that's in there. It's designed off of iridium, which is this like radioactive metal.
Okay.
And then there's also this like iridescence that happens and opalescence that happens in the rock. And then the flora and fauna is inspired by ancient jungles, like when you go to Angkor Wat and you see this like overgrown vines and tweaked out, a
Yeah.
sort of structure. Everything sort of gets inhibited and displaced by the nature itself. And so it was very important for us to make the audience feel that, like nature was reclaiming that space. And then also the primes is it's a very important location where when you come into that mouth, it should feel like the mouth of Unicron. The Unicron is the giant planet
Yeah.
eating
Mhm.
transformer. But we also wanted to be just an anthropomorphic version of that. It wasn't
Mhm.
literally Unicron, but it's an
Yeah.
anthropomorphized version of this planet eating shape. And
Mhm.
I thought that was really interesting. And our art director, Gerald de Jesus, did a great job designing that exterior entrance.
Yeah,
And
it was
then I
really.
helped craft the interior tomb with our layout department, who's Chris Batty, who's our cinematographer.
Mhm.
And I wanted to add that these shows are a culmination of so many minds. It's I'm there to helm the art department, but Chris is giving me suggestions about art and about lighting, and I'm giving him ideas for camera. And we're always bouncing ideas off each other. It's truly a family of synergy and
Yeah.
just creating the best possible project as we can. And Josh created that environment. Josh and Aaron Dem, our producer, they were very open to the idea of us sharing. And I never felt like my voice wasn't heard. We always got a chance to pitch and to create whole new ideas when we were in the story room or the writing room
Mhm.
manifesting the story for Transformers 1.
So
Okay.
basically, there is no other underrun suit. It's like there is just Icon.
Yeah, for the moment.
For the
But
For the
moment.
moment, yeah.
Oh, okay.
but if we ever do a sequel or we get to do a trilogy for the film, I know Josh talked about possibly bringing back Icon or having something unique that's
Mhm.
Yeah.
not just Icon and showing other underground cities, or having stuff that's like a little different than that, where it's a more organic than what we techno organic than what we saw before.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, good idea.
Could be a good idea.
Clearly. So, to finish on the really artistic direction of the movie, I have a kind of production question. At the beginning, where you start working on the movie, did you have any indication from Paramount, for example, who wanted to have like a synergy with the live action, or did you have from the beginning the full liberty on the full freedom, sorry, for the art direction?
Yeah, we had full freedom. It was Paramount said to us, "Hey, do your thing." And I was really inspired to create because they created a place where it was safe for me to pitch ideas and to really try to balance out, hey, this is not a live action film. This is a fully animated CG show that is being created with one of the best vendors of all time, Industrial Light and Magic. And
Yeah.
I'd like to speak a little bit to that too as well, to the idea of working with ILM. They're such fans of Transformers. They
Really.
truly love the franchise, and they were talking to us every single step of the way, like, "Hey, what are the characters that are in this set, and how do we like pay homage to the '80s cartoon, or how do we make this feel a little bit more sensibly designed to be animated better?" And our animation team, Stephen King, who is our animation supervisor, oh my God, he loves Transformers so much. Alex Fry, he came out of retirement to
Oh yeah.
be the comp supervisor on our movie. Like he was just kind of like a background character at ILM, and he's like, "Wait, there's a Transformers movie being made." He's all, I'm coming out of retirement to help you out." And then we also had the amazing Rob Coleman on the movie, who is an incredible animator that worked on all the episode one with George Lucas, and we had just like
Okay.
such a great production team. All the producers, VFX supervisor Fraser Churchill. I mean, he worked on Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Amazing VFX supervisor, such a nice guy. And Alex Popescu, who was our environment supervisor. There was just such a stellar group on the ILM side that were so invested as we were in the project, and it just made the project that much better because
Mhm.
we did as much as we could in the art department, handed that stuff over to ILM, and they just went nuts and made it like 10 times better. So we're just so lucky to have them as a partner for creating the movie.
Yeah, clearly because ILM, so they worked with the Michael Bay movies already, and
Yeah, that's
I know
right.
that they are really big fans of the franchise, all the movies they worked on, and that's really great to hear that. If we can say, no matter the direction, be it live action with Michael Bay or here with you and Josh and everyone else, they are always the fan and they are always motivated. It seems to work on the Transformers, so that's really great to hear. Like really.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah, so speaking about that, we were talking about the Michael Bay movies, the older
Mhm.
Transformers movie. Globally, what is your opinion on them, especially the Michael Bay ones, but also Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast, if you have seen them? And so we talked already about the generational trauma of the 1986 movie.
Yeah.
But
I love them all. I think they all have a very unique and very special place in my heart.
yeah.
And the Michael Bay movie came out in 2007,
Mhm.
the first one, and I remember being like super stoked on that. I was like, "Damn, that's cool." Like they're really going for it, and it was like big popcorn movie where everybody, the whole family could be entertained. It definitely had some silliness to it. It felt like a big commercial at some point,
Yeah,
here and there. But what I did love about it was they were creating a place where anybody, at any point of their life can be interested in Transformers again.
that's true.
And it got everybody invigorated on the IP again, and that was cool. There are also some amazing shots and like the big fights that they were doing in there, the way that they staged and scaled the characters and scoped out the characters and the world was also very interesting. I had a little bit of an issue with some of the storytelling on some of those films. Just
Yeah,
they get a little bit dicey and sporadic, and they messed around a lot with
clearly.
the lore of Transformers. And like I was like the Allspark and all this stuff, and I was like, that's cool. Like, but this has nothing to do with Transformers. But thanks for putting that in there anyway. And then
Yeah.
I thought Bumblebee movie did a better job of being attentive to what the fans were asking for and really paying attention to the nuances of the Transformers lore per se. But hey, you know what? I think that's the cool thing about what we do, right? As artists, is we get a chance to interpret ideas and
Yeah.
breathe new life into those ideas via through a film. And so Transformers for me is sort of like whatever you want to make it. And I was very appreciative that Josh Cooley had a really unique vision for the movie. And I was just so happy to be a part of that and bringing it to life.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
yeah, that's great. And you did great, actually.
Yeah, clearly.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What's your favorite character in the movie?
What's my what?
Who's your favorite character?
Oh, my favorite character for like I'm just such team Decepticon. And I really love D16
Mm,
and I really love how he transforms into Megatron and it's interesting because everybody always picks Orion Pax and they pick Optimus Prime, but I kind of fell in love with Megatron because he, in a lot of ways, I hate to say this, but I kind of identify with him.
mhm.
Like the idea that you're blinded and you're like the biggest follower of Sentinel, the biggest follower of the leader per se.
Mhm.
And then you've been lied to your whole life. You've been deceived. And then you have to make a decision about that. Obviously, I wouldn't go as hard as to like blow up Icon, but I was pretty amazed by his transformation and his unique sensibilities as a actor, Brian Tyree Henry, and what he brought to the role. And at the very end of the movie, I was so sad, but also like excited about what the next chapter of this movie may entail because he was bringing that whole like War for Cybertron vibe at the very end.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was ready for that. And I thought that was a really cool character. And my other favorite character, which I want to mention, is Alpha Trion.
Oh,
Okay.
And I really love that he's, kind of dormant and
Yeah.
it's after all the primes have been destroyed and he's in there and they wake him up and you see this beacon, sort of waking and he
Yeah, yeah.
like pops out of the screen at you and he's like, "Roar," like kind of like a little wiggly and just like the old man like, guy. And I was so impressed by Lawrence Fishburne's, performance. And I was so impressed by his transformation. And I was so impressed by his, like,
Yeah.
voice acting and just how epic it was. And we got those lines very early. And so it made us very excited to breathe more life into that character. And so there's like pieces of moss growing off of him
Yeah.
and his
Mhm.
face. And I wanted to play around with this idea when we finally unveil a prime, which is Alpha, that there's this Excalibur lighting over him, and
Mhm.
he's like kind of being raked by light, and his eyes like kind of flickering on and off. And I love Josh really wanted to push that, where he's like kind of sparking and like his eyes are turning on and off, and he's just like this old noble wise creature. And it just made me so excited to be playing around in that sandbox, especially when it came to the primes and the story of Megatronus. And, it was so cool. We had a version of the movie where Megatronus had a bit more of a part
Okay.
in the fight against the Quintessons in that flashback sequence.
Okay. That's
It was
interesting.
so epic. It was so epic. And Lawrence Fishburne was like, Megatronus Prime was the greatest prime that ever lived. And he was like talking crazy. I was like, dude, that's so cool. But it didn't make it to the screen. But
Would have
I
loved to
remember
see
that
that.
version and it is always in my head. I was like, oh my God, that scene is so epic. But anyways, I get really psyched and very excited about him as a character and all of the space that we created around the primes.
Yeah, clearly. You spoke about Megatronus. I think that besides all the main characters, who are main roles in the film, I think that among the fan, Megatronus with his new design and the fact that this time is a good guy, is not the fallen, it's really, I think, one of the standout characters, I think, in terms of design, in terms of aura, the best prime, the strongest prime, etc. Even though he has a little screen time, but
Yeah.
the few moments we see of him, and also the impact that he has on the story, because Sentinel took his T-Cog, Megatron see
Yeah.
him as his inspiration also. So he has an indirect role, I would say, in the story, and it was really, really well done.
Yeah,
So
we really emphasized I don't know if you guys noticed this or even know the lore, but apparently Solus Prime and Megatronus Prime had a relationship
Yeah.
like
yeah.
kind of offline. They were like low-key lovers.
Mhm.
And we wanted to play around with this idea, even the way that we lit them, that they're
Mhm.
connected. So if you see Alita responding to Solus that's been stabbed through the body
Yeah.
with that
Mhm.
big Quintesson arm, you actually see they're both violently killed in a way. They're all violently killed, but
Mhm.
those two we featured them very like
Yeah.
importantly,
Mhm.
and it was because of that reason. And Josh even knew about that lore; he was aware of it. And so, if we ever get a chance to go back and tell more story about the primes, he wanted to shed a light on their relationship.
Oh, it would be so good.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
yeah, we are really nerds on this kind of stuff. So
Oh, we
you
are
know
too. And Josh,
that.
honestly, you guys are so lucky to have a movie from Josh because I I'm lucky to get a chance to even work with the guy because he's just so smart with writing and character. And I think that that's something, and his sense of animation is insane. Like I
Mm,
was in animation reviews with ILM, and he said stuff on the first take. He'd watch a playback of
yeah.
animation once, and then immediately he's like, "Just do this and this, and you're done." And I was like, "Wow, like you are so smart with animation and
Mm,
emotion and acting and finding physique in the character, like really
mm,
feeling the character's arc and emotional journey." So important to have as a director that really knows their way through that stuff.
yeah.
I just wanted to ask, which character would you have liked to add in the movie and you didn't have the opportunity?
I love Ultra Magnus.
Ah,
Yeah,
that's my favorite character.
yeah. I'm a huge fan of Ultra Magnus, and I wanted to see him so bad. I would have loved to see a combiner too as well.
Oh, yeah.
Mm,
We
yeah.
pitched the idea of having massive transformers in the world that were walking around in like the background and stuff. And Josh was like, "We're gonna save that one for the sequel. We
Okay.
want we want to make sure that we're focused really in on the miners and
Mhm.
how they're evolving and not overshadow the scale of them and their transformations." And that made a lot of sense, and I really respected that decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. Good
Yeah.
to hear.
Yeah.
Speaking of character, does Sentinel have a vehicle mod? He never transformed in the movie, and there is a popular theory among the fan that he can that says he can transform. So does he have a
Yeah.
mod?
Oh, Sentinel?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sentinel
Oh,
Prime.
yeah, he has an alt mode in the movie. He actually goes into like a battle mode,
Okay, so
and
that is
Is
alt
that what
mode.
is that one?
that's his alt mode. Yeah,
Okay.
so he's able to like literally open his legs up. He
Mhm.
elongates into a bigger body. Why is there a down there?
I don't
Yeah,
know. I
yeah.
don't know.
So we don't know why.
And I thought that was really interesting that he's able to like get into this battle mode and
Mhm.
like be a big Gundam. And that was really interesting. That was a really great alt mode, but we didn't have him as a alt vehicle per se.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, yeah, because well, does he obtain this alt mode, if you can say, um,
With the
thanks
tick of
to the Chicags of Megatronus, or he has
it's his basis mod,
yeah.
I asked that question to Josh, and he wanted to keep it generally pretty understated
Mhm.
in terms of he's more powerful though because
Mhm.
he's been trying to get the matrix of leadership. That's literally everybody's goal in the whole movie is like
Yeah.
obtaining the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant, right? Is the Matrix. And I thought that was pretty cool because Megatronus was like the next best thing to the Matrix. He's like the strongest prime that ever lived.
Okay.
So that when he gets you know that Sentinel is badass. When
Mm.
he is fighting, he is definitely messing stuff up. But the thing is that the sheer will and the strength that D16 possesses overpowers Megatronus.
Mm.
And so when he's able to actually steal his heart, his transformation cog, you can see that he's even leveling up into Megatron, and he gets the fusion cannon, and he's able to transform into this massive tank. And he actually scales up about 20% in the movie as he
Okay.
gets these cogs.
Okay.
Okay. So that's really good to hear.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, definitely.
yeah, clearly. So we already are at the last question, which is
Okay.
maybe, um, uh, well, it's a little more open, but right now we don't know if there will be a sequel to Transformers 1. We have some contradicting informations
Yeah.
related to the box office, to some declarations from Hasbro or Paramount, etc. Do you have
Yeah.
information on your side? Do you hope some things, or do you not know also for this?
No, I'm sad to say that I don't see a sequel happening anytime soon.
Okay.
Okay.
And the reason why is I was hired by Transfor for the Transformers project for TF1,
Hmm.
and I was there, and I was actually being held by the studio to work on the sequel. We were ready to almost like immediately work on it,
Okay.
but they were pending the incoming news from the box office.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And because the box office performed so small, they
Hmm.
were like, "Hey, Jason, thank you so much for your service. Peace out." And so now I am no longer employed by Paramount. I'm
Hmm.
no longer employed by Hasbro, and I'm a free agent. I'm actually doing freelance work right now
Hmm.
and looking for my next full-time gig. Not to say that I won't ever come back and work on a Transformers project if they were presented to me, but that's not happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
And the sad thing about it was everybody was so ready to, including Josh, like he had sort of outlined the whole movie, the next movie in his head. He was ready to write it. And I remember Josh talking to me. He's like, God, I have all these great ideas. And he really did. He had amazing ideas on for the next movie. But hey, I don't know if it's going to live to see the next day. The good thing is we hope it finds its audience and
Hmm.
people love the movie enough that they just shout over and over again, I want
Yeah.
Transformers 2. And then it happens. So you never know. It could be resuscitated and
Yeah.
come back to life.
Mm.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
sure.
we hope so because we think it could happen, in a few years, like in a long time, maybe, because
Yeah.
it's like with the 86 movie. At the time, it was not a good box office reception, but uh,
No.
at the time, on the time span, on years, there has been a lot of fans who consider it maybe
Yes.
the best Transformers movie, and I think maybe it could happen also to Transformers One. Even to a casual audience, who find it maybe on Paramount Plus or on a VOD service, and they say, "Oh, why didn't I see this in cinema?" For
Yeah.
Right.
example. So
Yes.
maybe if it finds its audience, and also because well, someday Paramount will maybe want to do another Transformers animated movie, so it
Yeah.
would be the obvious way to go. So we will see. But
Just don't underestimate the Transformers fan. We are loud.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah,
For sure, we are, and I myself am a fan, and that's why I'm taking this time to speak with people like yourselves that are interested in hearing about our production because I want to make sure that there is a future for the story,
okay,
and it's
yeah,
not just me; it's so much bigger than me. It's so much bigger than anybody on the show. It's a 40-year-old property it's heavily coveted that people love.
mm-mm.
And I just truly hope that it doesn't take another 40 years for another animated, fully transformed movie come out and seen. But let's say 4 years is okay. Maybe I'll finish another project and then come back and do Transformers 2.
That would be great.
yeah,
No matter
we
how long we have to wait,
would love that. Would love that.
clearly.
We have
Thank you
no
very
other
much.
question. So thank you very much for your
Yeah,
precious time. And
for your
we
time and
know
for
that
the
you're
movie
really
also.
busy. Yeah, you know that you're really busy. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm so happy and honored to be here, and I just want to say thank you for reaching out, and I'm excited to have this conversation go live and hear
Yeah.
what the fans think. And if you have any questions in the future, if you'd like to have me back again, I'm always available to you guys.
Okay.
No, thank you.
So maybe yeah, when we upload it, I think in a few weeks, it will we will see the questions or the remarks of some
Yeah,
people, and
for
we will reach out to
lovers.
you if we want to do another one.
Sure.
So clearly, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you
Great.
very
Thank you
much,
so much.
much.
and
Take care.
nice day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.